Hello, I am back. So I just made a list. You can't see it. That's a very long list. Are you an INTP? These are 25 things which I think are definitely common and all. There are bound to be a lot more, but these are all I could think of in the last 10 minutes. I think if you have about majority of these things, you are an INTP. I will link the test in the description so that you can take it and then actually see what personality type you are. Okay, so let's start. Well, INTPs, they also, I'm talking from my experience, there are a lot of other things that affect me, which makes me me. Although I am an INTP, my personality is not the same as any other INTP. Just a briefing. It's already 1 minute and 40 seconds. That's perfect. But all I'm trying to say is all of these things are probably not applicable for all INTPs, but most of them should be. Okay, so INTP, introverted, intuitive thinking, perceiving. So that's a full form of INTP. And INTPs are analytical thinkers. They like to connect the dots about everything all the time, and that's why people can consider them to be extremely rational, not irrational, extremely rational, because they're analytical thinkers. I remember since I was a kid, I would just try to be like, oh, so if that's happening, that means this is happening, which is why I was good at physics, I think, because I could relate it to the outside world. Now, however, it's a different situation, but I still love physics. Then INTPs, for the most part, I think they're pretty open-minded. So if you give them information, they'll take it, and they'll try to make something of it. And many times, INTPs can question the information that you're providing them, which makes all the other personality types like, hey, she thinks or he thinks that I'm not saying the truth. But really, INTPs are just so curious that if you're telling them something, they would like to know so many different parts of it. And they just, as I said earlier, they want to connect the dots. So just to do that, they're going to ask a lot of questions, and which is one of the points, and I'm not going in order. Anyway, so this connects with the open-minded, because they're pretty open-minded, because if you give me some sort of information, I'll probably be extremely fascinated by it. But at the same time, I'll be like, oh, okay, so how can this affect this? And many times other people will be like, hey, do you think I'm lying? And they get defensive about it. But what they don't understand is that the INTP is just trying to inquire a little bit more, just to understand the provided information better. Okay, so INTPs, they're open-minded, but they're quick judgers. So it's like you show me something, and then from the only information that I have and that I can gather, I make something out of it, and that'll be like my little judgment. But when then I further see something else about this person, so say I see someone who's new at school, and it's like, oh, okay, so they're wearing this, and their shirt isn't tucked in, which probably means that, they're not that studious. Which this, as I said, is a little bit of a quick judgment here. But then the next day they come to school and their shirt is tucked in. So I'm like, oh, yesterday their shirt wasn't tucked in. Maybe they just, I don't know, went and played some sport, which is the reason why their shirt came out, and they look kind of sporty, so it makes sense. So this is how an INTP thinks. I think this is going to be kind of a long video, but anyway. So they're quick judgers, but then they keep refining their thoughts as well. So it doesn't make them judgmental, but it does have, this imprints a particular kind of belief in the INTP's mind, which they keep refining over and over again, hence making judgments as such. Now, INTPs are not very emotional, and they're usually pretty detached. And some people think it's a problem. Okay, sorry. There's no doubt that INTPs do tend to bottle up their emotions, but it's not because they're scared to show it. I think it's more like they don't give that much significance to their relationships, not relationships, their emotions. So hence they're not that emotional because they think that they're so much more greater rather than thinking about yourself, which is ironic because INTPs are actually selfish, which is not on this list. But I personally feel that INTPs are pretty selfish. But at the same time, they're not very good with emotions and they're very detached. I don't know why that is. It's just there. I've noticed it. Like, my best friend the other day, she is an ESFP. Yes, that's her. She's an ESFP, and she's like, you're not very emotive. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And I get awkward very easily with another INTP trait. Awkward, being awkward at things that people say, because so many of the times they just... Okay, here's the thing. So many of the times people just say things and they don't realize how they're saying it and why they're saying it. And when an INTP cannot connect the dots or analyze what this person's saying, it makes the situation a little bit awkward. INTP needs to know why someone said what they said, and there has to be some sort of logic behind what they're saying. Now, I'm not saying that what I say always is the best, because I mean, I have some pretty stupid theories about so many things. And they're not exactly logical, but in my mind at the time it made sense, and I hadn't conducted that much research. Going to a tangent. Speaking of tangents, INTPs can be extremely distracted. That's because their brain needs constant stimulation. So in order to do that, what they do is they see this particular topic, they'll be like, oh, it's so cool, yeah. And then suddenly they'll move to a different topic, and they'll be like, wow, that's cool too. And then they'll move back to another topic. So it's this constant, like, I want to say circle, but I don't know, some shape. So it's this constant moving back and forth between so many things that an INTP, they're just so curious. And I think this is also one of INTP's issues. They know a lot of things, but a little bit of a lot of things. So for me, I know I'm not even in biology, but I know so much about biology. But then under biology, I know so much about neurology, and then psychology, and then like something about the heart, and then something about the freaking feet. You know what I'm saying? So it's not easy for an INTP to focus. That being said, if there's something that they can focus on, they will put that heart and soul into it. I've seen people who are amazing at everything they do, and that's because they have this kind of focus at everything that they do. But INTPs, they're usually so confused and so lost that they can't really focus, and for them it's just like, what's the logic behind this? And for me personally, I haven't found the logic behind anything, so I don't really understand why I'll be doing it. And hence it causes me to lack focus. But if there's something that I have to do and I know that I want to do it, I will do it, like 100%. Like, I will put my heart and soul into it. But other times I was like, whatever, like, big deal, and I'll just get like small information about so many things. So like, you could just say a topic right now, and I won't know that much in depth about it, but I'll know quite a bit about the topic. So it's basically INTPs distracted, and yeah, basically INTPs are pretty distracted when it comes to, they're not very focused. That being said, if they are focused, they are crazy focused, like they can't get out of it. It's something that they can't get out of. INTPs are also extremely creative. And what I mean by that is, sometimes their creativity can be pretty stupid, which is sometimes my creativity is pretty stupid. I just like get blown away with weird theories. But I don't think you can ever. INTPs have, I would say, one of the best theories ever. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen someone think in such a peculiar manner. I feel like INTPs and INFPs are very creative. They're so creative, and they're so they know how to get out. They're not in a mold that society wants them to be in. So basically, they just don't fit in that mold because they don't understand the logic behind society. Honestly, I don't know that much about INFPs, but INTPs, they don't know that the logic behind the entire like society thing. So they don't fit into that mold. Speaking of which, they're not good with society and they hate being suppressed. So one of the saddest things that can happen to an INTP is if they're suppressed. And if they're not given the right freedom to express their thoughts and vocalize themselves, because they're so, it's like, whoa, it's crazy, INTPs. Whew.